If you think Harley-Davidson's worst days are behind them, think again, because what's happening right now isn't just a slump, it's a full-blown collapse. Sales are plummeting, dealerships are vanishing, and the myth of American motorcycling is crumbling faster than anyone's willing to admit. And the scariest part? Harley isn't alone. The entire heavyweight motorcycle market is sliding toward disaster, and Harley is leading the fall. It's not just the end of a season, it's the end of an era. So how did it all fall apart so fast? And why is the worst still yet to come? Stick around, because what's happening inside Harley right now could change motorcycling forever. Thousands of Harley-Davidsons, brand new, untouched, and collecting dust in silence. The legendary rumble of Milwaukee Phi Twins, once a symbol of freedom and rebellion, has been silenced not by regulation or environmental policy, but by something far more devastating: a complete collapse in demand. Across the country, dealerships that once served as cultural hubs for generations of riders are now eerily quiet. Sales floors that used to echo with startup roars now sit in stillness, their glistening chrome displays untouched, their machines unsold. This isn't just a seasonal dip in sales. It's not a bad month or even a bad year. This is an existential crisis, and for Harley-Davidson, it may very well be the most severe in its 120-year history. What's happening to America's most iconic motorcycle brand in 2025 is nothing short of catastrophic. And yet, the public narrative remains quiet, almost indifferent, as if no one outside the riding community has grasped just how bad it's become. But the truth is unavoidable. The numbers, the closures, the debt, the cultural shift, it all paints a grim picture. And the most haunting part of it all is that many still believe Harley will weather this storm like it always has. But this time, the cracks aren't just financial, they're cultural, generational, and structural. Let's begin with the facts, because they speak louder than speculation. Harley-Davidson sales are down nearly 40% year over year. This isn't a slump. This is a freefall. Motorcycles that used to move in weeks are now sitting unsold for more than 200 days. 200 days of gathering dust, 200 days of accruing interest, 200 days of sinking value, and no one's buying. Back in 2006, Harley commanded more than 50% of the heavyweight motorcycle market in the US. They weren't just the leader, they were the category. Fast forward to 2025, and they're struggling to maintain even 40%. In Europe, they're in single digits, just 9% of the heavy bike segment. In emerging markets, they're virtually non-existent. This is a brand that once sold lifestyle as much as machinery, and now the lifestyle isn't moving. It's not just about new bike sales. The collapse is reshaping the entire sales ecosystem. Dealerships, especially the small independent ones that formed the cultural backbone of the Harley experience, are closing at an unprecedented pace. These aren't just showrooms, they were gathering places, community centers, local legends. Their disappearance is erasing a unique kind of American subculture, one dealership at a time. Even the biggest Harley retailers, with corporate backing and decades of experience, are being forced to adapt. Staff cuts, reduced hours, smaller inventories, they're all scrambling to survive, and the horizon offers no relief. So how did this happen? How did the most recognizable motorcycle brand in the world wind up here? It wasn't a single bad decision. It was a perfect storm, a cascade of economic pressures, strategic missteps, and cultural disconnects that collided all at once. The first wave was price inflation. In just 5 years, Harley prices ballooned by more than 40%. A Street Glide that sold for $22,000 in 2019 now hovers near $35,000. Entry-level models, once priced to attract new riders, now flirt with $15,000, dangerously close to compact car territory, and that price bump came without any major innovation. The riding experience is largely the same. The performance hasn't radically changed, but the cost, it's skyrocketed. At the same time, the cost of financing these bikes has surged. In 2019, low interest rates made it easier to justify a big-ticket leisure vehicle. Today, interest rates for motorcycle loans range from 9% to 18%. That's not just expensive, it's exclusionary. A $30,000 Harley could now cost over $40,000 once interest is factored in, and that's if you can get approved at all. Loan rejection rates have climbed sharply. Nearly 20% of applications are being denied. Even well-qualified buyers are being asked for larger down payments and stricter documentation. And with rising insurance premiums in key states, Even riders with perfect credit are rethinking whether it's worth it. But underneath it all lies a little-known financial mechanism that's quietly gutting the industry from within: floor plan financing. Here's what most people don't realize. Dealerships don't actually own the bikes on their showroom floors. They finance them. Short-term commercial loans, paid daily, that allow them to stock inventory without upfront capital. In theory, it works well. In practice, especially in a down market, it's a trap. Every single day, a bike sits unsold. The dealer is paying interest on it. When bikes move quickly, the interest is manageable. But now, with units sitting for months, that interest becomes a black hole. Margins vanish. Profit turns to debt. Multiply that across 50 or 100 unsold units, and you're looking at a financial death sentence. Many dealers are already underwater. Some are returning inventory. Others are quietly going out of business. This floor plan system was meant to support growth, but in 2025, it's become a slow bleed, a silent killer, and as interest rates climb, that bleed becomes a gushing wound. But beyond finance and inventory lies an even deeper problem, one Harley has seen coming for decades and failed to fix. Its customers are aging fast. The average Harley buyer is now well into their 50s. That number increases by about 6 months every year. In other words, Harley's core market is aging faster than it's being replaced. This isn't just a red flag, it's a demographic time bomb, and it's ticking louder with each passing year. Back in the 1980s, the average Harley buyer was in their 30s. These were blue-collar workers, veterans, first-time homeowners, people chasing the American dream and looking for an escape on the weekends. Harley's bikes were aspirational then, raw, powerful, unapologetically loud. They represented freedom, grit, and self-reliance. They stood for something. But as the decades rolled on, younger generations began to look elsewhere. They didn't want bikes that weighed 800 pounds or cost as much as a car. They wanted machines that were agile, efficient, and affordable. Japanese and European brands answered the call with modern, lightweight bikes that didn't carry the baggage of a brand locked in the past. Honda, Yamaha, BMW. They weren't selling rebellion. They were selling function, value, and a different kind of freedom. Meanwhile, Harley dug in. Instead of evolving, they clung to what had worked in the past. They built bigger bikes, they added more chrome, they leaned harder into heritage, and they watched an entire generation ride off in a different direction. Millennials, us who grew up with smartphones, apps, and streaming, found Harley's brand of analog masculinity outdated. Gen Z barely gave it a glance. Harley's attempts to bring new blood into the fold have largely failed. The V-Rod, a performance-driven muscle bike with a Porsche-designed engine, was met with resistance from dealers and purists who claimed it wasn't a real Harley. The Street 500 and 750, aimed at urban commuters and first-time riders, were plagued with quality complaints and failed to capture enthusiasm. They were eventually pulled from the lineup. The Live Wire, Harley's moonshot into the electric future, should have been a leap forward. Instead, it became another case study in missed opportunity. It launched with a $30,000 price tag, a marketing identity crisis, and none of the signature rumble that loyalists adored. It was too expensive for new riders and too alien for the old guard. It sat somewhere in between and ultimately appealed to no one. In trying to modernize, Harley alienated its core. In trying to preserve its identity, it failed to inspire the next generation. And now, with its customer base aging out and no one coming in to replace them, the company finds itself staring into a demographic vacuum, one that's growing wider every year. It's not just about selling bikes anymore. It's about selling a lifestyle to a generation that no longer dreams about it. As Harley's grip on its home market loosened, the company looked abroad for salvation. But even there, they stumbled. In markets like India, Southeast Asia, and even parts of Europe, Harley's traditional formula simply didn't fit. In India, a country that sells millions of motorcycles annually, Harley barely made a dent. Big, expensive cruisers made little sense in markets dominated by lightweight, fuel-efficient commuters. While Honda, Yamaha, and Royal Enfield flooded these regions with affordable, practical bikes, Harley stuck stubbornly to heavyweights designed for wide American highways. Their decision to pull out of India in 2020 was less a strategic shift and more an admission of failure. Meanwhile, in Europe, Harley's market share continued to erode. Environmental regulations, strict emission standards, and urban congestion charges made Harley's gas-guzzling V-twins increasingly impractical. Riders who once dreamed of Harley's American mythos were now looking for nimble, efficient alternatives better suited to city living. But Harley's biggest global failure wasn't product or policy. It was branding. The same cultural cachet that once made Harley the ultimate expression of freedom became a liability. In an era where authenticity matters more than slogans, Harley's corporate attempts to repackage rebellion felt hollow. Riders around the world wanted experiences that felt real. Harley, somewhere along the way, lost that thread. As if the situation wasn't grim enough, another tsunami is crashing down, and it's already reshaping the used market in devastating ways. During the post-pandemic boom, manufacturers and lenders went wild, handing out ultra-low interest loans to almost anyone who asked. Riders who had no business buying $25,000 machines were suddenly riding off showroom floors with 7-year financing deals. Now, those same buyers are defaulting in droves. Motorcycle repossessions are up nearly 30% year over year, the highest spike since the 2008 financial crash. Repo lots are overflowing with Harleys, many of them barely a year old, now selling at steep discounts just to clear inventory. This glut of repossessed bikes is dragging down the entire market. Trade-in values are collapsing. A bike that might have fetched $12,000 last year is now lucky to command $8,000. For Harley owners, this is a nightmare. Many find themselves underwater, owing more on their loans than their bikes are worth. They can't trade up. They can't refinance. They can't sell without taking a brutal financial hit. And dealerships, already drowning in unsold new inventory, are refusing trade-ins altogether. It's a vicious cycle that feeds on itself. Every repo that hits the market drags prices lower. Every underwater loan adds another future repo to the queue. And while used bikes flood the market, new Harley sales aren't benefiting. In fact, they're being cannibalized. If a buyer can pick up a lightly used, low-mileage Road Glide for 40% less than MSRP, why would they walk into a dealership and pay full price for a new one, especially when financing, insurance, and maintenance costs are spiraling out of control? The repo wave isn't just hurting Harley. It's eroding confidence across the entire motorcycle economy. Buyers are scared to make big purchases. Lenders are pulling back. Dealers are desperate. And Harley, already teetering, is standing right in the path of the oncoming flood. When a business fails, it's usually measured in numbers. Sales lost, stores closed, jobs eliminated. But with Harley-Davidson, the collapse carries an emotional weight that numbers can't fully capture. Harley isn't just a brand, it's a culture. It's a part of America's mythology. Open roads, blue skies, the deep rumble of a V-twin engine echoing off canyon walls. For generations, owning a Harley wasn't just about transportation. It was about belonging to something larger, something rebellious, something free. But that culture is disappearing. Every independent dealership that closes takes a piece of it with them. Every longtime rider who gives up riding because they can't afford it anymore chips away at the myth. Every new buyer who chooses a Yamaha, a Royal Enfield, or an e-bike over a Harley signals a broader shift away from what Harley once stood for. It's not just financial collapse, it's cultural erosion. And once that spirit is gone, no amount of rebranding or strategic pivoting will bring it back. So where does Harley-Davidson go from here? Can it survive the storm that's engulfing it? Or is this the slow, painful ride into the sunset for one of America's most enduring brands? There is a path forward, but it won't be easy, and it won't look anything like Harley's past. First, Harley must confront its pricing problem head-on. The days of charging luxury premiums for nostalgia are over. Riders today demand value, performance, and relevance. A $35,000 price tag for a cruiser, no matter how iconic, simply isn't sustainable. Second, Harley must rebuild its product lineup from the ground up. Affordable, approachable models in the $7,000 to $10,000 range must become the foundation, not the exception. Middleweight bikes, scramblers, lightweight urban commuters, these are the machines that will build the next generation of riders. Third, Harley must resolve its identity crisis. Instead of chasing every market trend and trying to be everything to everyone, it needs to double down on what made it great in the first place. Authenticity, ruggedness, simplicity, real mechanical soul. Update the technology, modernize the performance, but never lose the character that made a Harley a Harley. Finally, Harley must rethink how it sells motorcycles altogether. The old dealership model, high overhead, huge inventory, aggressive financing, is dying. Direct-to-consumer sales, online customization, subscription services, short-term ownership models, these are the future. Younger buyers expect flexibility, transparency, and control. Harley needs to meet them where they are, not where they were 30 years ago. Even if Harley-Davidson doesn't survive in its current form, the motorcycle world isn't ending. Far from it. What we're witnessing isn't a death, it's a metamorphosis. The machine isn't dying, it's evolving. The identity of motorcycling, once rooted in rebellion and raw horsepower, is being rewritten by new generations, new technologies, and new demands. The future belongs to a different kind of rider, one who values convenience over horsepower, practicality over chrome, and connectivity over combustion. It's a future shaped not in backroads and roadside diners, but in urban grids, startup labs, and digital marketplaces. Lightweight electric scooters are replacing heavyweight cruisers. App-connected mobility platforms are taking the place of garage-bound pride machines. And subscription models, which allow access without ownership, are starting to define how people experience two wheels. In cities like San Francisco, Seoul, and Amsterdam, the hum of electric motors now echoes where rumbling V-twins once roared. Riders hop onto e-scooters using nothing but their phones. They pay by the minute. They swap out battery packs at vending machines. There are no oil changes, no dealer visits, no maintenance rituals. Just simple, silent movement. Fast, clean, efficient. Companies like NIU and Super Soco are pioneering this shift, offering sleek, affordable electric bikes designed for dense city life. Royal Enfield is expanding into lightweight commuter models that combine retro charm with everyday functionality. These machines aren't built to dominate highways. They're built to navigate alleyways, to slip through traffic, to get from point A to B with style, speed, and zero emissions. The very language of the ride is changing. Horsepower is no longer the ultimate flex. Range, charge time, and connectivity are the new status symbols. A bike doesn't need to roar anymore. It needs to sync with your phone, integrate with your calendar, and get you to work on time. It's not about rebellion, it's about relevance, fitting seamlessly into lives that are increasingly mobile, modular, and sustainable. For many traditionalists, this transformation feels like a loss. The ritual of warming up the engine, the feel of a carbureted throttle, the weight of steel beneath you, the crackle of a straight pipe exhaust echoing through a canyon, all of it is fading, and it's understandable to mourn that. The old world of motorcycling was visceral, emotional, raw, but it was also exclusive, expensive, and intimidating to many new riders. The new world? It's accessible, inclusive, purpose-built for a different kind of freedom, one defined not by distance, but by control. But for those willing to embrace change, this is a frontier rich with opportunity. Electric bikes will unlock new forms of expression and performance. Urban riders will create their own culture, one shaped not by noise, but by nuance. The passion will still be there, the thrill of motion, the satisfaction of the ride, but it will look different, sound different, feel different. The road is changing. The machines are changing, but the core instinct, the need to move, to explore, to feel the wind, remains the same. It's just being redefined. And maybe, just maybe, that's what the future of motorcycling was always supposed to be. Harley-Davidson's collapse in 2025 isn't just about lost sales or aging riders. It's about the end of an era, a transformation that's bigger than any single brand. Harley can still survive, but it must evolve radically. Faster and more courageously than it ever has before. It must rebuild from the ground up, pricing, product, identity, and sales model all on the table. If it hesitates, if it clings too tightly to a fading past, it will be left behind. The motorcycle world will move on, lighter, faster, more connected. But whether Harley rides into that future or becomes just another legend lost to time is a decision being made right now with every passing day. For riders, for enthusiasts, for anyone who ever felt a thrill hearing a Harley rumble through the air, these are bittersweet times. The old road is ending, but new roads are opening. And for those paying attention, for those willing to adapt, there's still a way to ride it your way. Think Harley's collapse is shocking? It's just the beginning. The brands falling apart now are the ones lucky enough to still be breathing. The next wave? It won't just hit hard. It'll wipe entire names off the map. So before you walk into a showroom or sign that financing deal, Ask yourself one thing: will this brand survive the ride? Hit the next video, because what's coming next could change everything.